Trading has closed on the 12th of December 2022. We will do our disclaimer, go over our calls, and make some predictions. My trading plan for tomorrow, December 13th, 2022. Please remember I can be wrong. Any calls you make should be at your own risk. Last call for the pattern with the early low, which is this, and tomorrow should also have the early low. We said there was support at Friday's close, but it was likely to break, and if it broke, if we gapped under that low, we had the elements of a crash. And we said if we gapped up smartly, the call was killed before the open. Well, we gapped up smartly, so the call was killed before the open. All this can be invalidated if we gap down tomorrow and undercut this low. I guess anything's possible. Usually when you get a weak pattern like this, it nearly always follows through. It hasn't followed through yet, and maybe it won't. But what counts isn't today's close, what counts is tomorrow's open. I'm not betting money on what happens at tomorrow's open. But there is a CPI report coming out, and it's usually followed by a large gap. I don't like to bet money before reports come out, but so far that's a hugely reliable pattern which didn't work. If we don't gap under this tomorrow, then it just fails. During the day, MEJT gave an ultimate sell signal and also said that this rally is false. So it's pointing to lower prices, $39.52, $32, and ultimately 10 cents lower and probably lower than that. Now, as always, if we gap up smartly, the prices are still on the table, but not the time. And of course, I don't know if we're going to gap up smartly or not. We still have these much lower targets, but there's also a target that will often retrace to this blue line. We also have a higher target here at 40.0749. Now, I don't think the wave count is guaranteed, but this count works. You have us still in the third wave. You have an ABC with C equal to A, and this is a Fibonacci 38.2% retrace of this drop. If we stop here, it's very negative because usually retraces go to 61.8. Now we haven't stopped here yet, and maybe we won't. This doesn't have to be the only count. But we're certainly at resistance from the Fibonacci and the wave count, or at least this wave count. And if you're bullish, you want us to continue higher tomorrow. And the consumer price index report comes out tomorrow. It's typically going to be a huge gap. I'll say often a huge gap. And I don't like risking money in front of reports like that. Just remember, whatever you put your money on, you'll probably win big or lose big. Well, tomorrow's pattern has the early low. It could still gap up. Typically, it's a rally day with a high in the final hour. If it's weak, more weakness tends to follow in subsequent days. The CPI comes out tomorrow before the open. And of course, we have the FOMC meeting the day after that. I never try to call what's going to happen with that. Often it's followed by a gap open, which can render tonight's analysis nugatory, and please keep that in mind. There are lower MEJT targets. Unless we gap up smartly, the rules say they'll print. Friday's bearish pattern nearly always is followed by more weakness, which didn't happen today. The only thing which could save the pattern would be for us to gap down tomorrow and promptly undercut Friday's low, invalidating today's action. Remember, tomorrow's open can substitute for today's close. That's a very tall order, but I guess anything can happen. It's possible to count today's action as completing 5 waves up for wave C of wave 4, but other counts might work too. So we have a big report coming out before the open tomorrow. This pattern on Friday so far has failed, but it gets saved if we gap down sharply and promptly undercut this low. And while it's not the kind of thing I risk money on, I'm not saying it's impossible. Anything can happen when those reports come out. We have lower targets. If we don't gap out, that'll have to be the call. By the time, and don't forget, if we gap up instead, the prices are still on the table, but not the time. And here's my next higher target, 40.0749. I still like to see us gap down smartly, but I don't always get everything I like. I certainly didn't get what I liked today, but the call was killed before the open because we gapped up. We'll see how we open tomorrow, probably a large gap. I'd love to see us undercut this low, but it certainly isn't a lock, and that's today's call.